Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this DIY Papercut mood lamp light box. And this video is also a collaboration with my lovely mom, who has a channel where she makes cloisonné enamel jewelry. She's really good at it and she does really detailed work, and we decided to have a common theme for this video, which is creating something with a raven. So this is the kind of work she does, and if you want to see what she did for this project, I'll leave the link down below. So without further ado, let's just get right into the video. I started off this project by just sketching a bunch of ravens and getting some practice and making sure that I could actually draw some ravens. I actually wasn't super excited about this prompt because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I've never done anything that's like a close-up of an animal, so I thought it was going to be difficult and this was a cool new challenge. I ended up making this sketch here of a raven landing on a tree branch mid-flight, and I really thought this pose was cool and I liked the idea of it, so I just went with it. The first thing I had to do was transfer that whole sketch onto a piece of cardstock so I could have it the right size and shape for this light box. I made it as nice as I possibly could and planned out where every little line of every feather will be and the feet, and just planned out everything a lot better than in my little sketches. I had to make sure all the feathers and everything lined up really well. Then I cut out this whole raven sketch in one piece, and this will be my guide to help plan out the rest of the raven. Since this raven is a focal point of the light box, I have to make sure it looks really good and detailed. Then I cut the shape of this raven out 2 more times and glued those 2 pieces of cardstock together to thicken the raven. Since ravens are black animals, it makes sense to darken up the cardstock in order to make the raven appear darker in the light box. And then I'm going to cut really little highlights out on the wings so it looks like the feathers are shiny, and that's what I'm doing here. Basically, I planned them out where I wanted to on my rough thing, copied them over onto the nice raven, and cut them out. I did that on the wings, the head, the body. Then I cover these holes with sketching paper so they appear really light, like little highlights. And I also wanted shading, so I took another piece of cardstock, planned out more shadows on the underside of the feathers and the underside of the body and in all the right places, and I cut out those pieces and glued them on top of the raven as well. I did this 2 different times with 2 different thicknesses of cardstock to really layer up the shading and make it appear darker. Then I go in with my knife and I cut all the lines into the wings, all the outlines of the feathers and everything to bring the lightness back into the raven. Cut a few extra little details, make sure it looks nice in the light, and I'm done with the raven. And I thought I was done with the raven, but then I kept looking at it and I realized that these 2 wings together kind of look like one wing, and it looks like it's missing another wing. So I just cut off that little extra where the back wing shows, and I create a whole new wing to put in a better position so it shows more and it looks more spread out, and it looked 10 times better. So I just quickly made that little adjustment and it is actually done now. Now we can move on to the background. I don't know, when I think about this light box, I imagine it kind of like a picture frame. So I cut this layer out with a little border around it to create a frame around the front, so it would look more like a picture, and I'm planning to put a little design around it. But I just glued the wings together and I can get started on the tree leaves. Everything in the background is relatively simple. Basically, I just wanted lots of leaves and tree branches all around. So I cut out this main branch that the bird is going to be landing on, and I added a little bit of shading onto it and everything. And I glued it into place on a little layer and made sure it looked good. I taped the raven into place on that layer using clear tape because it's suspended in the air and it has to look like it's flying, so I just did that. You can kind of tell that the tape is there at the end, but I don't think it's too big of a deal. And then for the background, I just made a bunch of different tree branches, big ones, small ones. I wanted to make leaves in the foreground, so I made those bigger. I made smaller leaves in the background and tiny leaves and lots of branches. And I took my time and I spent days just cutting out a bunch of leaves to fill out that background and make it look really lush and full. And there's really not much to say about this. I'm just cutting out leaves and branches, and more leaves and more branches. So while I'm doing all of this, I thought I would read aloud a little poem that my sister wrote that actually is about a raven, and I thought it would fit perfectly here. So here it is. A raven sits on a barren rock, the wind ruffling his feathers. The shouts of a small boy scare him into flight, climbing higher and higher into the sky, forever seeking heaven. So yeah, here's my sister's poem, and it's really cute. And I really do love ravens. They are so cute and they're really pretty birds. We actually have a family of ravens that lives right by us on a little power pole. They have a nest. And every year they have little babies and they're always making a ruckus when they're learning to fly. So I really do love ravens and I have a little connection with them. I'll insert a little picture that I took of them. It's really blurry, but they're super cute. And yeah, this project felt really wholesome and cute for me. Once I had all of the branches and leaves cut out, I got some blank layers that I cut and I just placed them around, tried to find good positioning for all of them and glued them onto their layers. I think I made 8 layers with the big branches and leaves in the front and the small ones in the back. It was fun to play around with the positioning and I think it turned out really nice. And it looks quite organic, so I was proud of that. Once everything was placed in its spot, I wanted to cut little extra details on some of the leaves, at least the ones that are in the foreground so they look more detailed. So I just cut lines into the tree branches and into the leaves to just add some details. The leaves closer to the front I cut a lot of details into, and the ones in the back I just did along the tree branches, and it added a little bit more depth. Then I almost forgot to do this, but I realized that I had to make a little necklace or bracelet that the raven stole. I know ravens don't really go after shiny things, but I thought it needed something, and I didn't want to draw like a dead animal, like it hunted and caught like a dead mouse, so I thought some pretty jewelry would look nicer and it would kind of have the like magical little feel to it. So I cut out the shape of the necklace and I used these tiny little circles that I used in my 3D diorama light box, and I had a bunch left over, so I used them to create like a pearl beaded necklace with a little crystal at the end, and I glued it into the raven's mouth. Then to finish up the details in the front, I cut wood grain texture into the border because I was kind of lazy to come up with the design, but I do think it matched and it looked pretty good. And then I was really excited about this, so I figured out a light source for this light box. Basically, the light shines from above and it hits the raven from above, so I wanted to kind of create that beam of light with the paper in the back, so I cut out little panels of leaves that could be shading. You'll see how it all comes together, but basically it's lighter in the middle and then around the edges it gets darker, and this will be in the way background, so when the LED shines through it's going to have darker around the edges and light in the middle, and it's going to add more depth and look a lot better. And with that, the layers are done and I can start assembling it. I use 1/2 inch thick foam board for my light boxes and I just cut strips of it, and I only had black foam board left, and I actually really like how black foam board looks with my projects. I just never use it because I always use the white ones, but this time I had black and I think it actually looked really cool, and here I am just assembling the layers. And I have this little wooden box that I make for my light boxes. I have only one here and this is kind of a rough one, and it actually broke when I put it onto this light box because it was the wrong size, but you know, we can just ignore that and imagine it with a really pretty box. And then I have an LED strip that I place in the back, and here it is done. I went with the green LED obviously because the bird is in a tree and it just fits the best, and I'm actually really happy with this light box. At first I wasn't excited about the idea, but it actually turned out really cool and I'm super proud of it, and it's one of my favorite light boxes that I've done in a long time. So yeah, here it is in all its glory. I hope you guys like it, and yeah. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. And again, check out my mom's channel to see her cloisonne enamel raven, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!